impact on that. And maybe that's what.
It really was when you were credited with the guitar on that album that it really dawned on me what a multi-instrumentalist you were. I mean, you played what, flute, the zither, Mellotron, guitar, all this stuff. But is the keyboards and the guitar, are those things you trained in early, or are they instruments you just kind of picked up towards the end?
I didn't have any training. I was just basically self-taught.
Yeah. You started mainly on woodwinds, I guess.
Not really. I mean, probably the first instrument was piano. I think we had a piano in the house, but I never had any formal lessons. And we had an old Spanish guitar around the house that my dad showed me about two or three chords that he knew, and basically I'm sort of self-taught from there. But I did have, when I was in the military band, I was taught to read music and learn harmony and that kind of thing. And I started on clarinet, so I had when I was at Nella Hall, I had a professor of clarinet teaching me that, and then I just took up the flute and saxophone after that.
So when you played the Mellotron in the court, you really had not played piano for very long, or keyboards very much?
Only, the way I do now, really, just to write and to noodle, and I mean, I've never had a correct technique or anything like that. So
it's amazing you hear a song like Epitaph that you sort of dribbling around.
How did you get the tingle factor in that? Every time I hear it, it makes a hair stand up in the back of my neck.
He wets himself.
It's not on the top.
Good old there.
How did you get that?
The crescendo was done with the very what's it called, the speed control, but I don't know. Is that the part you're talking about, or the end?
It's just magic. It's a magic moment.
It's still one of those.
But it gets me every time I hear it.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it does me too. I know.
That's good.
The remastering of in the chords, they did a really good job with that, because it really comes
stunning.
It sounds really loud at that point. And
one thing that amazes me, if I may just interrupt for a moment, the same machine is on Nights in My Satin, and it's entirely different.
Just the sound of what? I'm sorry.
The Mark II.
Right.
The violins on Nights in My Satin is in a wash of reverb and loops and all sorts of things, whereas on chord, it's just fantastically there.
All right.
And the clarity of the remastering now, it's just awesome. The Mellotron sounds really marvellous.
I recommend. I didn't have anything to do with the remastering, but I really recommend it. It's the first time for me that album sounds good.
Oh, it should have done.
Yeah. So.
That's the 30th anniversary edition?
It's the 30th anniversary edition, the one that has the gatefold cover. Although some of them are coming in jewel boxes now, but it's one of these things I keep having to buy another copy of the thing.
So, Fripp's got you too, is he?
But at least you get royalties out of it, yeah?
Well, yeah, except I have to buy them all myself.
So it kind of balances out, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've bought tons of them. But I do recommend it if anyone doesn't mind getting another copy, because it actually sounds really good.
Ian, what are your influences for, say, that album? Is there a composer or musician, or style of music?
For that album? I don't know. I liked it. A lot of influences. It's hard to know if there's a direct influence on that album. He's not one of my favourite composers now, but I was listening to Richard Strauss a little bit, which is like, has this big sort of romantic, big, style of composing, and I might have been a little bit influenced at that time by him. But I also love, Stravinsky and Beethoven, and I was always very fond of the Russian composers, actually.
Okay.
But I used to listen to jazz as well, and rock. I mean, I'm just like everyone else. I'm just a Beatle fan, and going back to
So whenever I hear it, I'm thinking like, gee, it was Handel, Bach, anybody in particular? That's a good answer. Russian especially. Thanks.
I was going to ask you, what keyboards would you use in Foreigner?
In Foreigner?
Yeah.
I mainly played on stage clavinet. because we had another. Our Greenwood was the sort of the synth guy,
Right.
and he had harp and some
Odyssey or
and
something,
and
Harmony.
Hammond and all that sort of thing. But I do the sort of the more rhythmic kind of stuff on the tablet. And in the studio, I played the piano and stuff as well. But, any?
Yeah, in '74, you sort of almost rejoined Crimson. I guess it came out later that the idea was that you would take over the band. I think that was Robert's idea.
I don't know about that. Is that something that came from?
I thought I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe it was in an interview with him.
I
But
don't know.
I guess if you'd have ended up doing that, I guess you'd have been back playing Mellotron again.
It's possible.
How would that that might have
It's
gone?
possible. That wasn't really the plan, you know. Basically, Robert said, you know, I don't know if he phrased it, would you like to rejoin the band? He asked me, would I like to go on the road? They were going to the States, I believe, coming to the States. And I just said, sure, you know. It was very casual, you know, do you want to, you know, come out? And then next thing I heard, he disbanded the group, so I don't know why. I know John Wetton was particularly upset about that, because he was really looking forward to touring again and having me back in the band and all that. But
How do you think it would have been getting used to that kind of considerably different kind of style, I think, than you had at that point?
yeah, I mean, I wanted to get away from that. I mean, I had gotten away from that. So it was actually before Foreigner, but you know, I don't know. I mean, I didn't follow King Crimson that much after I left, and but you know, when Robert asked me to play on Red, you know, I was happy to do it.
Which song do you play on in Red? Are you playing on
I play
Starless?
on two, I think I play on
Fallen Angel.
Fallen, or
I play on
one more Red
Red
Nightmare.
and
Yeah.
Starless. Starless.
You're
yeah.
playing alto sax.
Alto, yeah.
Did you play with Mel Collins at the same time, or were you guys standing?
No,
or
because
you split apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a good friend of mine.
So right by that time, Robert was playing all the Mellotron bits.
By that
For
time, yeah.
On 400s, yeah.
On the 400, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell the difference. I can, anyway.
Yeah, I can. At first I couldn't, but now I can.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
You spend enough time with it.
Yeah. Is that because of the circuitry? I've often wondered, because there's more...
On the 400, the three violins, they remastered it,
Right.
and they sort of sharpened up the sound a bit, and it makes it much more nasal sound.
All right.
So basically the three violins we do now are the Mark II, the original open
Right.
version. We can do both, but most people prefer the original. But it's also the machine itself. I mean, it's got a valve preamp. It has got a different sound,
Right.
without
I think it's
doubt.
the valves. I think it's the tubes that make a difference.
I can tell the difference, obviously. But I think, as Chris says, after a while, you learn to hear it, and you can tell the difference. I can tell a Mark II flute as opposed to an M400 flute.
Yeah.
It does sound different.
I guess there's not really words in the human language to describe what
No.
the difference is.
No,
It's
you
just
can
a
just tell,
feeling
but-
that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the interesting things at least I've noticed when I listen to the Court of the Crimson King album, it sounds more like a band effort. But when I listen to the King Crimson albums, even like Wake of Poseidon and thereafter, it sounds more like Fripp and Sinfield are kind of leading the others. I'm just wondering, is that was there any real leader in King Crimson?
Well, it became, in the original, there was no real leader. It was a group effort, and as I say, we basically were all pointing in the same direction. We all were making the same music. There was no sort of real conflict, and we didn't really have especially in musical terms, there was no leader as such.
Right.
You know, an idea was either unanimously used or not, and it was a very quick process. We all, you know, either knew if it would work or if it wouldn't very quickly. And so it was definitely a case of, I think after I left, I think Robert became, you know, he
Asserted himself.
took the helm,
Yeah.
as it were, and because I don't think he wanted that to happen again. You know,
If there's no conflict, why didn't you sort of stick together then? I mean, what happened?
There's no one.
If you say there's no real conflict in the band, why didn't the band sort of stick together?
Well, there was no conflict, but well, that's a big question. You know, why did I leave? I know it was.
I'm trying to avoid actually saying that.